Welcome back to the e-learning module on challenge. For the purposes of the 200 level e-learning modules, we are going to explore three fundamental questions when it comes to learning and development. Those questions are, what are the intended outcomes or end results we are striving for? What actions do we need to take to accomplish said goal? And what type of person do I need to be to execute these tasks? These can also be referred to goal orientation, task orientation, and role orientation. For the challenge theme, we are seeking to explore to understand the following. How can we ensure that our student athletes are challenged appropriately? How can I increase the level of challenge in my program? And what are the signs that I have presented too great or not enough of a challenge to my student athletes? So how can we ensure that our student athletes are being challenged appropriately? We ask. We go back to the coaching effect survey and look at the numbers. What does the data say? You're specifically looking at the metrics. Even if something is uncomfortable, my coach pushes me to get better. My coach talks about the importance of my mindset or attitude. My coach really challenges us to work hard in practices. I know I'm a better player because of this coach. When things get stressful, my coach is at their best, demonstrating an elite mindset. You want to look at what is the largest gap or deficit we can address in our skill set. The other way to ensure that our student athletes are being challenged appropriately is we observe. We know from additional communication and psychological safety modules that nonverbal communication can be a powerful assessment tool. Are your student athletes engaged with the task at hand? And what model can we use to evaluate appropriate levels of challenge? You may have seen this one before, but I'd like to introduce the challenge and support model. The challenge and support model simply states that for peak performance, that red line that we see, you want to ensure that the support that you are offering to your student athletes is equal to the level of challenge you are asking them to face. When increasing challenge, one must also increase the amount of support offered, instruction, opportunities for questions, positive feedback, and reinforcement. Refer to additional Excel Sports modules for support examples. If you have not enough challenge with significant levels of support, you may run into student athletes who are experiencing boredom, apathy, lack of focus or attention, or distractions. Student athletes in this case will create their own stimulus, which oftentimes can look like causing drama in a team environment. If student athletes have been tasked with too great of a challenge with not enough support, they may be experiencing feelings of frustration, anger, lack of trust or feelings of safety, rash decision making, and a breakdown of communication. Generally, we want to think, how can I increase the level of challenge in my program? We know that a major tool we can use to increase the amount of challenge in our program is to play with variables that may or may not be in our control during competition. This can include environments, opponents, structure, and barriers. So environments, we want to think about the environments that our players are comfortable in and environments that may be new to us. So thinking indoor versus outdoor, larger course versus smaller courts. Opponents may be individuals from different teams or mixing up the teams that you use for practice events. Structure could include increased or decreased time. Maybe you make up a rule in terms of non-dominant hands. There can be ways to influence the structure of your program and the structure of a specific drill or practice that can increase the level of challenge you're presenting to your student athletes. Additionally, you could add barriers to your program, like asking them to overstep their previous drills or previous personal records and challenging them to better themselves in a specific skill development area. What are the signs I have presented too great of a challenge to my student athletes? If you're seeing any of the following, you may want to back off just a little bit. Your student athletes may be experiencing frustration, anger, lack of trust or feelings of safety, rash decision making, breakdown of communication, or more. And yes, if you're wondering if you have just seen these, we just went over them in the challenge or support model. It is more likely coaches interact with student athletes by presenting too great of a level of challenge than too little. And so be mindful of what you can observe and what you're hearing from your student athletes to see if you've presented too great of a challenge. In the next video, we're going to discuss learning applications for the 3 questions we just covered.